darken the screen for a quick moment. We are now starting the recording. And we are going live. Actually, we're starting the recording right now. Hello, everyone, wherever you are. This is eLearnChat, episode number 38, November 16th, 2011. Well, we got past 11-11-11. Terrence, how'd you fare?
I made it. I made it so far. So far, so good. Looking forward to making it to 11-17-11.
11-17-11.
That would be a good thing. And really excited about our guest today. This is every so often we get to have a guest on where I've had a virtual relationship with that person over time and never had the opportunity to meet that person live. So although this is still virtual, but it's just great to actually hear her voice and start getting a little bit closer to hopefully one day meeting her in person. But Donna Gilliland is a social media expert. Yeah, let me not talk over your applause there.
Sorry about that.
No, we want to make sure that Donna gets her applause, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Donna is a social media expert, and she helps small businesses strategically grow their business, advance their careers, increase productivity, all through the use of these wonderful tools that we call social media. And if you definitely get a chance, if you're a Twitter user, follow her on Twitter, because she's always tweeting some wonderful information. And we'll get to all the other ways that you can connect with Donna throughout the show. But if you're interested in social media and networking, then Donna is one of the people on this planet that you definitely need to start following. So without further ado, welcome, Donna.
Thanks. I appreciate being here. I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
Sounds good. And I've known you for years, but as a virtual person on Twitter, I've always been retweeting your stuff. I didn't really know you until recently, but I knew who you were. So
yep. And now we get to talk, guys.
That's
we
right.
get to actually hear each
Our
other's
pleasure.
voice.
This is fun. Yep.
For me too.
Oh my gosh, the day they add voice to Twitter, I don't know. We may all be dead at that point.
We'll see.
You only get to listen for a few seconds.
You only get 140, what is it? About 10 words. Say them carefully.
Oh, that would never work for me then.
Well, we were talking a little bit before we started the show, and I was telling Donna that it was a surprise that you see profile pictures, and Donna's all over social media. So if it's YouTube or Facebook or any number of things, you start to piece together all the missing parts of the puzzle with what do they sound like, possibly where they're from if you don't know that. And with Donna, I was quite surprised when I came on the phone and I heard this beautiful Southern Belle accent. So it's great to have Alabama's best on the show.
Thank you.
Donna, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, the little bit about myself is that for the past approximate 20 years, I've been working in technology. And, of course, I know that's a rather broad statement. So to be more specific, as for years I have been a professional trainer and speaker in various technologies. It started off with me training to corporations in Microsoft. So I always say that I started when DOS was king of the operating systems and floppies were really floppy. So I'm fairly dating myself there. And so as technology has evolved, so have I, and I'm sure you both know that to keep up, it's a continual learning process, and I always equate it to being in college, but it's as though you never graduate.
Yeah, we use floppies now as frisbees.
Yeah.
Don't feel so badly. I started out with pre-DOS, and
oh, good. Then I don't feel bad now.
no, don't feel that badly.
Yeah, I was at a conference yesterday, and one of the speakers, he was about 20, maybe 23 or so, and he put a picture on the screen of the whole thing was about antiquity, and he put this picture of some type of device and that was created in the 80s, and he was like, and I wasn't even born then, and I was like, immediately I felt like I was 100 years old.
Yes, I know that feeling.
Terrence, you are.
I hope I can look like this at 100 years old. That'd be a good thing.
Yeah, really, really.
So, how did you get into social media from? It is definitely part of technology, but if you were talking about DOS and those are kind of on the programming side, social media is a little bit more on the user side.
Because, the way I got into it is, one, I just adore marketing. I always have. And really, one would have to enjoy it to some degree, because if you're going to start your own company, as I did about 7 years ago, and when you're a solopreneur, you wear all the hats. Mm-hmm. And one of those hats is marketing, and I happen to love it. And I also so enjoy people. And then when social media came on the scene, of course, I saw that as it is a great tool for companies to use to grow their business through more economical means. And it was a natural fit for me because it put me in contact with people, helping them. It's definitely that marketing side, and that's the short story. That's how I managed to get into social media. I knew that it was going to be big, unlike what many, of course, were saying in the beginning. Oh, it's going to be a fad, it's passing. But we see how it hasn't passed yet.
And you know what? I don't know if you plan this or if it just kind of happens as these things sometimes do. But even beyond social media, you've kind of been known, whether people have kind of pushed you there or whether it's through your own strategy, you've been known for training people on LinkedIn and, having a very strong presence or attachment with the LinkedIn. First, I guess my first question with that is that accurate? I mean, is that the sort of the core of your social media expertise? And if so, what was it that drew you to LinkedIn over the other social media tools?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you're asking it so I can clarify the perception that might exist, is that it's not my core. Okay. It is, part of what I do. I would say that my core is more on the Facebook and Twitter and that type side of social media. But yet, how I got started with LinkedIn is that actually is the first channel I started with. Because as a business professional or career professional, I knew that it was the top networking site devoted solely to business and that I needed to be there. And so like with, all of us who are in technology, we start off by teaching ourselves these things. And that's how I began with LinkedIn, was for the sole purpose of having more visibility on a network that was solely devoted to connecting with businesses. And that's how I started. That's been probably 3 years at least, maybe approaching 4.
Now, you've seen LinkedIn go through a lot of changes, too. I remember, I'm not sure, but I'm in like the first 5,000 people who joined LinkedIn. I got some sort of email once. And I don't think I ever took really good advantage of it, but a lot of people really feel it's a great place to make connections, get connections. I remember when I first joined, and you probably had some experience. This was about 2002 or 3, I think, when it started. And everybody was sending everybody notes to meet someone else, and nobody was responding to the notes. That was one of the issues. And they sort of made it easier now. You don't have to go through that whole process. But how effective do you find LinkedIn?
It's been effective in a lot of ways. One, I've gotten writing opportunities as a result of being on LinkedIn. I have had calls and opportunities for training, all of that because of LinkedIn. I've had speaking opportunities as a result of LinkedIn because I believe that people, when they are looking for credible sources, for people who have the skill set that they need for an assignment, that they start, and if they don't, they should, by looking at the LinkedIn profile, by doing that one Google search of your name. So if I keyed in Rick, is it Zanotti or
Zanotti?
Zanotti. Good. See, I had it right the first time. That's good. I'm proud of myself. So if I did a search on Rick Zanotti and you're on LinkedIn, you are most likely going to be the very first thing that I see, a link on Google.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I have had opportunities and continue to have them as a result of the LinkedIn profile.
Terrence, you use LinkedIn a lot?
Yeah, I do quite often. You know, I have several groups. One of them I manage the community over at ASTDLA. That's about I think we're almost at about 700 members
Oh,
there.
that
So
many?
yeah, oh yeah, and they're
Pretty good.
global members too. So
Yes.
I definitely agree that it's a powerful tool. I think it's one of the trinity when you think of social media, to have just a presence on either just LinkedIn or just Facebook or just Twitter. I think just doesn't, or just Google Plus. I guess it's not a trinity anymore. That's just, you're doing yourself an incredible disservice. I think you have to have
Right.
a presence on all four. But let's hear your opinion of that, Donna, versus mine.
Well, I do think that you have to have a presence on all four. I mean, each of those platforms has a different mission, and of course, I think in terms of Facebook and Google Plus, I think that mission overlaps as to what you can do with Google Plus. But I do think that you have to be present on all of those for various marketing reasons, various strategies that we use for marketing ourselves and our business. But I don't think it's wise not to be on LinkedIn, because it's where people think in terms of your business profile, and they don't think they yet think in terms of that in terms of Google Plus, which I don't think they will, or Facebook or Twitter. That's not the profile of you in business, and so LinkedIn is the place for that. But I do think you have to have a presence on all of those platforms.
Sure. So, there's a lot of philosophies and strategies out there about, how to manage your LinkedIn account. I was just tweeting with somebody this morning, having just a debate about his strategy was just not what I would prefer, but I saw no flaws in it. It just wasn't a strategy that I personally would take. So what's Donna's strategy for working on LinkedIn?
Well, my strategy, like you said, everyone has a different strategy, and I'm fairly an open networker. And so that, in the beginning, I wasn't. In the beginning, I was very guarded about accepting connections. So a few things in answer to that question is, in terms of connecting, now when someone asks to connect with me, I do always look at the profile and see what we might have in common that might be beneficial for us to be connected. Then other ways in which to gain visibility on LinkedIn is a lot of different things. There's a lot to keep up with, especially when we're across multiple channels. But I think LinkedIn sometimes results in being a stepchild among these platforms that we're always busy on, which I think is unfortunate. But in the strategics of using LinkedIn, and there's so many involved. But for example, your status updates, you get visibility when you post to your status updates. I suggest that people do that at least every 7 days and put what you're working on. I do go through the profiles of people that I'm in groups with, like you're saying, Terrence, that you're in a group where there are 700 members. So that's an opportunity for us to connect on LinkedIn by inviting those that we think that we could benefit in that relationship, that one-to-one relationship. I hope that's what you had in mind with that question. I mean, I
Yes,
have other.
absolutely.
So there are other ways to gain visibility besides your status updates, besides the groups, and groups are huge. I mean, that's just a huge opportunity for you to gain visibility. I also encourage people to align yourself as the subject matter expert that you are, and you can do that in a multitude of ways. Outside groups, there's the Q&A feature of LinkedIn. So you could go and look at the questions that are being put out onto LinkedIn. And if it's an area of expertise for you, then I suggest that people answer those questions.
Now,
because that's another.
Is that an
Go ahead.
open Q&A? I've never gone to the Q&A area. That's something that's kind of
Oh,
interesting.
it's so wonderful. It is. It is open. As a matter of fact, if I'm looking for an answer to something and I can't find it in my digging, and the three of us are technology people, so we know where to dig to find what we're looking for. But sometimes we can't unearth what we're looking for. So I will go to the Q&A if I think it's a relative topic that I could get an answer for, and I find that the response time of those is magnificent. I usually start with a group. If I have a group that I think could help me with the answer, I start there.
Right.
But I use the Q&A, and it's been fabulous. I was trying to write a formula in Excel, and I just couldn't. It was very complicated. And that's just one example of many. And so I went out to the Q&A and posted it. I must have had 10 responses within 24 hours.
That's great. I got to check that out. I like those things. They're fun.
They are. They are. Very helpful.
How do you know that you've been successful with your strategy with LinkedIn?
Well, I think that the success is, for me, I base that on the fact that I get contacted a lot. That my goal, we'll talk about headliners here in a moment, but my area of expertise, as the both of you know, is multifaceted, and one of which is I'm a professional speaker. I am a technology trainer, a social media marketer, and so I want to make connections and get opportunities in those areas, and I have as a result of being on LinkedIn, and that continues. Now, it doesn't happen necessarily daily for me, but I do. It does happen probably, monthly for me. I get contacted in some way. So that's how I base the success for myself, is whether or not I am actually getting some business out of the connections and out of being on LinkedIn.
That's great. Terrence, anybody talking in the chat room today?
Yeah, we've got our usual suspects and a few new folks popping in there too. Dave Kelly's in there. Trish Jeff is in there. Jeff is one of our Australian regulars. So we get some global attention, but no questions yet. People are just kind of commenting about their efforts so far with LinkedIn, and they're across the board. Some people are using it, and some people don't use it as much, and there's actually some people that haven't used it yet. So this is great, and it's great that they're on the show to hear about this, because I'm sure as soon as Donna's finished here, they're going to run out and join up on.
There will be LinkedIn. A flood on LinkedIn. Yep.
Yes.
Let me in.
So let's start with that individual who hasn't used LinkedIn yet. They haven't even opened the account, or maybe they opened an account but they have zero connections, just haven't done anything with the account yet. What suggestions do you have for them, Donna? Where do I start if I'm that person?
Well, with that person, and even with someone that's already on LinkedIn, is one of the most crucial parts of your beginning journey into LinkedIn is your profile. And that's where a lot of people fall down, is with a profile that's very lacking, where you can't be found on LinkedIn. So I'll start from that point, because when you fill out that profile, this is not something that you're going to do in 30 minutes. It's something you're going to have to give some strategic thought to, and I'll go over some of those strategies, but it's something that you're going to need to step back and write, and I always suggest that you write your professional summary, which you have up to 2,000 characters in that field, that you write that in something external to LinkedIn, like in a Word document. Get all the spelling right, that kind of thing. But beyond those basic kinds of things, here are some strategics to keep in mind. Again, that profile is paramount to your success, among many things, is that your headliner, which is that area just beneath your name, then I always tell people to take full advantage of that headliner, because you have 120 characters that you can use to clearly define, what you do. So think about what your expertise is. Would someone want to connect with you based upon what you've placed in your headliner? So it's think marketing strategics, and think keyword. Think in terms of have I described myself well as to what I do. So in filling that out, and then when you move on down, then you have an area, of course, where you can fill in what your industry is. Make sure you've chosen an industry that best describes the area you are in, because if you are hoping to get a job, perhaps, using LinkedIn as a catalyst for you, your profile, then often job recruiters search industries, and you want to make certain that you fill that out right. But then on down in that big part, your profile summary, that's the area you get to really shine, because you have up to 2,000 characters where you can talk about what you do and who you're about. And again, I would write that elsewhere. I would also suggest to you that if you're trying to get ideas for well-written profiles, that you go and look at the profiles of those that you know have been successful on LinkedIn and read those profiles. And then below that, you have a specialties area. And I want you, those of you who are fairly new, and maybe even those of you who aren't new, I want you to think keyword strategic. I want you to write down all the keywords you can think of that someone might use to search for you, because LinkedIn has a very powerful search engine where you can get very granular with how you search for someone. And the specialties field is one of many fields in that profile of yours that is searched by LinkedIn. So you want to think about all the keywords someone might possibly use to locate you. And I can go from there on down if you like, or I can stop. But it's whatever you'd like me to do, Terrence.
No, that's actually really good advice too, Terrence.
Yeah. What you had mentioned that some of these fields, provide up to 2,000 characters that you can input in there. If they provide 2,000 characters, does that mean you should use 2,000 characters?
I'm saying if you can talk enough about yourself. When I say talk enough, I mean it needs to be meaningful. Are you able to? Maybe you're able to give me a clear picture of what you can do for me, for my company, in less than 2,000 characters. But maybe not. Depends upon your accomplishments.
Three words. Walk on water.
Hey, if you can do it in 3 words, Rick, be sure to send me a copy. And then if you go on down, there's a contacts area. And in the contacts area, most people just use it where you put the reasons why you'd want to be contacted. I think it's got those defaults like networking opportunities and some generic options there. But what people often don't realize is the contacts area is a 2,000 character field. Mm-hmm. So you can fill out more information about you using the contacts field because it has 2,000 characters. And something else while I'm thinking about it is, I don't know if you've ever noticed or not, but there's a skills section where you can fill in your skills. And you can fill in up to 50. And what's really interesting about this to me is, if you've ever used it, and those of you who are about to use it, as you start typing your skill, if LinkedIn already has that in its database of skills like social media monitoring, social media marketing, it'll pop up in the auto list. And when you populate your skills section with these that are in that auto list, because you're not restricted to just the ones in the list, you can keep typing your own even though LinkedIn doesn't show it in the list, is that when you go back and hover over one of those skills you pulled from the auto list, LinkedIn will actually show you where that skill is going. Has it increased, like maybe in the market? Has it increased or has it decreased? And it'll show you the percentage of increase that there is in that need for that particular skill set.
Well, I've definitely learning things today because, like I said, I've been on for about 9 years. I haven't really done much with it other than I have put in profiles and all that, but I haven't really taken advantage of that. I belong to probably about 5 groups. I have to unbelong to some of them because I never get involved. But sometimes I do. It depends on the groups. Some groups just talk too much, but other groups are pretty interesting. So
I can relate. But I think it's today I was looking at my skills section and I was interested to know, for example, where the numbers were coming out on, say, social media monitoring versus social media marketing, and it's on the rise. And then, of course, I was hovering over one skill set that I've had for many, many years, and it's on the decline. It's actually a negative number. So
now, what do you mean as far as social media monitoring versus social media marketing?
Monitoring would be, for example, companies will hire people to monitor the conversations using various tools like Hootsuite, TweetDeck, among other platforms besides those common ones, to listen to the conversations that are being held about the mention of their brand, their company, the person. and to monitor those conversations. That's just one small example. And social media monitoring happens to be one of the skill sets that's on the rise. That I think when I looked at it, it's over 40% on the rise as a skill set that companies are looking for.
It's interesting, all the new skills and careers that have popped up over the last 3 to 5 years.
It's true.
Just due to social media. Yeah.
It's very true.
So I take all your advice. I go into my profile. I amp it up. I put my websites on there. I make sure that I'm maximizing the use of all that space. So my digital presence is, at least my footprint, part of my footprint is there printed. What do I do at that point with my strategy once I've fixed my profile?
Well, the profile, and going back for just a moment, and then I'll address the question on the strategy, is I also want to encourage everybody to get at least 3 recommendations. And the best way to get recommendations is to give them. However, I want to qualify that. Don't give recommendations on people you don't know.
Right.
Truly about their background. Only those that you do and they know about you. It's a good way to get recommendations. But now, going to your question, which is what are the strategies now that everything's amped up, as you said, Terrence, is that then you need to think about how you want to start connecting. And one way is to start inviting those, of course, that are on LinkedIn that you've done business with. You can go back to past employers, people that you've worked with, and extend connections. I also suggest people that if you've attended an event, and you've gotten the business cards of those, and I suggest that you reach out and try to connect with those as well. Then become members of groups too, because when you become members of groups, which I suggest you become members of groups that are of interest to you, and then work on connecting with those who are within your group. So those are just a handful of strategies for beginning to build your network, your first-line connections, as they would be called.
Okay. Now I'm going to take a step backwards so I don't forget to ask this question, because it comes from Jenna in the chat room. Okay. Actually, we have a couple of them here, so let me kind of scroll through. The chat was going a little crazy, so I lost my place here. But Jenna's asking, what do you recommend in gaining the social media skills that you talked about? So in that skill set. And I don't think you were saying those have to be social media skills, but I think we had kind of started talking a little bit about all the changes in skills that have started to come around just due to the fact of social media being so popular. So Jen is asking, what do you recommend in gaining social media skills?
Well, the gaining of any skill, of course, is in part the diving in and the learning of it, because this reminds me a lot of back when I first started in technology. Again, I date myself. There wasn't official training for you to learn these various software programs, for example. Now we're into social media marketing, and while that is you're beginning to see that show up in marketing classes in college, you're probably not finding it maybe as prevalent. So you've got to pick some opportunities for yourself. Working with someone who needs help in order to learn these, or for that matter, take it on your own. On the social media monitoring, for example, why don't you start trying to use those tools to just set up monitoring systems for those who might mention you via Twitter or other channels? But it's going to have to be practical application that helps you to learn those. So it's not something that I think you can do without some application, and you'll have to come up with those opportunities for yourself. I hope that wasn't too vague.
Well, we'll see if she follows up in the comment section.
Okay.
We do have another question from Jeff, and he's asking, when you create an account, can you decide not to display your details until you have finished your profile to give you time to do it correctly?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. Absolutely. And I would not display my profile until everything is finished. and then go public with it. You definitely want to go public. Some people actually don't go public with their profile, which sort of defeats the purpose of making connections because you want to be found.
You know, I've seen people like that I'll get a request to connect up with them, and I go to their profile. I have no idea what they do, who they are, why they are. And we all have the same one person in common across 3 million people. I'm trying to figure out how that one person got to everybody, but it is sort of interesting. But a lot of people don't put their profiles out there, and you're not going to get a lot of people attracted to you or interested in what you do if they don't know who you are or what you are. And there's a lot of spam out there, too, on LinkedIn, just like anywhere else. There's a lot of users just trying to really hard sell you. So you've got to be a little careful with that.
Actually, that's such a no-no. So anyone that's online today and you are just now beginning to venture into a professional presence on LinkedIn, like all the other social channels, they're not about selling. You know, no direct sales.
Exactly.
Hopefully, it will come as a result of you using those channels, but the purpose is not to direct sell. No, and you will lose people when you do that.
Right, and a lot of people don't get it. They come in hard.
They do.
And it's like, I don't think so. But that happens on Twitter. It happens on Facebook. It happens everywhere.
It does. It does. And then you want to disconnect from those who do that.
Right.
Now, should one of your goals be to, get as many connections as possible, or at least as many as you can possibly manage? Because you see some accounts and I know the free accounts will only show up to 500. It'll go 500 plus. And you may have 500 really legitimate people in your connection, in your network. But should that be a goal for you to increase your LinkedIn social graph as much as possible? And here's a second part to that: is does that change perceptions when somebody looks at your network and sees that you're only connected to X amount versus 500?
Well, I think that on the original part of your question, it's really a two-part question. So that first part is whether or not one should be a lion, if you will, and trying to connect with as many people as you can. It really depends upon, I guess, what your strategy is. And the more people that you connect with, then there's that potential for more opportunity because you have a wider base to work from. And then as far as the number goes, are you asking if, say, I see someone only has 35 connections versus 500 plus? Are we talking perception in that way?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I think that when people see that you only have a handful of connections, number one, I do think perception is this person's new to LinkedIn. And I think that when you see it on the reverse side of that to numbers, then people tend to want to connect with you because you have the larger numbers. And for those who are less familiar, when we talk about a first-line connection, Rick and Terrence, if I invited the two of you, then you become my first-line connection. But that in turn puts me in contact, or at least be able to see the second and third line connections that you have, which means that if I wanted to go to work for, say, Coca-Cola, and I started searching in the advanced search feature of LinkedIn for Coca-Cola, then I'm going to see a list of people with Coca-Cola, and next to those people's names is going to be a value, either a 1, 2, or a 3, showing me what my level of connection is. So if I see that Rick has, it's a second line connection, and I'm trying to get in the door at Coca-Cola, then I'm going to write Rick and ask him if he would feel comfortable introducing me formally via LinkedIn to that person.
Right. Right. And I tell people, if people ask, do you have a lot of connections or not, it's better to be alone than badly accompanied.
That's very true.
I really love your perspective on LinkedIn, Donna, because it's not it's personal. It's individual. Yeah. A lot of times I will hear people talking about their social media strategies as this is the absolute way you have to do things, and it's refreshing to hear you talk about well, if this is your strategy, then here's some tactics. And if your strategy is this thing, then here's your tactics that you can use for that. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you, Terrence.
No problem.
And I think we're about right at the news segment right now. We were about 35 minutes into the show.
Yep, we definitely are.
So we'll do a real quick news segment.
Yep.
Actually,
and before you go to the news, too, I want to make sure that we direct people to where they can contact Donna. And you can definitely contact Donna. And Donna, correct me on your website, because I was clicking on it just now.
Yeah, we have it up right now, MOSTraining.com.
Right. One T in the name. And Facebook is the same, facebook.com/MOSTraining. And the MOS is an acronym for multiple services, one of which is Marketing Online Solutions.
Ah, okay.
And then Twitter is Donna Gilliland, twitter.com/Donna Gilliland. And I'm also on YouTube, YouTube/MOSTraining.
And I thought most was with the mostest.
The hostess with the mostest.
The hostess with the mostest, yeah.
Only I'm not the hostess.
That's right.
Not today, anyway.
And you're also on Google Plus. I've seen you there.
I am.
As well. So there's no reason for anybody out there to not find Donna. She's all over the place.
I am.
All these digital
like a bird,
footprints.
flying everywhere.
Yeah. And is there anything that you have going on that you'd like to promote? Any speaking engagements or places where we can catch Donna live and in the flesh?
Not at this moment, but it's subject to change as we speak.
Well, we'll stay posted to your website and all your social media postings to see where you are, and definitely let us know when you're in the LA area so we can definitely do a meetup.
Oh, I will, and I'll expect dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to try to find some local Los Angelian cuisine, which I don't know what that means.
That's McDonald's.
But hey, we got some great restaurants here, Rick. What are you?
There's some very good ones. Yep.
Okay.
Do I hear Chart House?
So I'll turn it over to you, Rick, for the news.
Okay, news.
And Donna, if you hold on.
Not too much going on today, but this will affect kind of all of us in one way or another. First one, Kindle Fire is now released. So this is going to be interesting. Will Kindle Fire actually make a dent in the iPad sales? Will it be a viable new machine? I don't know. I'm getting mine today. I was hoping to get it before the show, but it's arriving today. And I'm not a fan of Kindle in terms of their really crappy editor, in terms of the way they show their lousy fonts and everything else. I think it's just really poor. It's probably the worst reader I've ever had. But I love the fact that they've got the most books. They're way over 1 million books and growing. And from what I read, that they are now selling more digital books than they are hard copy or bound books. Sure. So there is definitely a sea change going on in that whole arena. Donna, do you use Kindle at all?
I don't. Actually, I use the Nook.
The Nook. My daughter has the Nook. She loves it.
Yeah, I love the Barnes & Noble Color Nook.
And this, in essence, is really competing against the Nook, I think, more than the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. Reviews so far are pretty good. I'll know more by next week. I'll get it today. I'll open it up and I'll do my 10-second judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
I'm with Jenna in the chat room. She's saying the iPad. I with having an iPad, I really don't know why I would get a Kindle Fire.
That's true. I did it just because we're researching and we're seeing if it's any good. Now, our next news item is our friends at Litmos, the LMS. They've been acquired recently, and they are just doing a major hardware upgrade. Their business is really booming. So, kudos to the Litmos crowd. They're in New Zealand.
Have they been acquired?
They were acquired. They were acquired about 2 months ago, I think, 2 or 3 months ago.
I just saw them at the show at DevLearn, and
it's hard to keep up with acquisitions. I tell you, every time you turn around, somebody's been acquired by somebody else.
Okay, well, good for them.
So anyway, good for them, and they're good folks, and we wish them well. And the third one is Sony releases Vegas Pro 11. This was released about a month ago. It's starting to gain a lot more traction. It is probably one of the top video editing packages in the industry. It doesn't get the fame of Final Cut Pro and to a certain point, Adobe Premiere, but it's a lot better. Anyway, Terrence and I both use it, and we wouldn't be wrong on that one, would we?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Although I'm on a different version of it, and
well, you're on 10, right? Or
yeah, I use all three. Once you operate with one editing tool, I
they're
think
pretty similar.
Yeah, you can use them all. So there might be certain purposes where I go to different tools, but Final Cut 10, the reviews on that were horrendous.
Right,
so
that's
I
true.
think they lost a lot.
They lost the professional marketplace with that because they made it really iMovie Pro.
Yeah,
which is kind of a different animal. And our final one, and this is something that Donna tweeted me about. It's actually not really what she tweeted me about, but it's kind of along the same lines. This is the Zoom. Samsung Zoom H2N is now available. And I'm going to show it right here. This little thing you're looking at is a voice recorder. And it is a very good professional voice recorder. It has 4 different microphone settings. It has 5 microphones in this thing. It's got a lot of mics for a little thing. The sound quality is awesome. It's really clean. You can buy a little kit with it, and you notice it's very small. My hands are big, but this thing is really that small. Very easy to use, easy to read the screen. Let me see if I can bring it close. You might be able to see the screen a little bit better. Of course, it dims itself right when I do that. So this is the Zoom H2N recorder. Very good if you're doing a lot of e-learning recording or any kind of podcasting, any kind of recording. This will give you a professional level microphone for about $199, and it is fully transportable. You can take it anywhere. You can go with it. It records AVI or MP3 files. WAV files or MP3s, and it's a good multi-purpose everything recorder, and always good to have those. You never know when you might be somewhere, you go to a trade show, you want to record somebody, you're interviewing people. For any odd reason, nice, cheap solution.
Does it plug into a soundboard?
It is also, it can through, you would have to put a small 3.5 millimeter plug into it, which is the headphone jack plug, into an XLR. So you could do it into a soundboard. But it is a USB mic as well.
So that answers Jenna's questions was will that work with webinars? And if it can plug into a soundboard, then you can plug it into your computer.
You can do webinar. You can make it a USB mic. So yes, it'll work in all of those. Nice. Really nice little mic for the money. I've been pretty impressed with it. The speaker it has is pretty crummy. They all have really crummy speakers. So when you listen to it, you go, oh, it doesn't sound that good. But then when you actually hear it, when it's recorded, it is really clean. So anyway, and it has a built-in compressor and limiter, so you get that nice radio sound, whatever you want. So it's kind of fun.
Cool.
A lot of people are always asking about mics, so that's my latest.
Donna,
I guess that's my 16th. If you ever have
questions
mic.
About mics, just ask Rick. Rick is the
Donna. I guarantee I will make you go broke in no time.
See, I'm so glad to have this tip. I was just sitting here salivating, over this one that you're talking about. So this is great.
Yep. And the other one you asked me about is the mic I have on right now. You asked about headset mics.
I did.
This headset is not related to the mic, so the mic is strictly this.
Oh.
It's a little small mic. I use the headset because I don't want the reverb. So the headset's just really to listen for the show. But if you're recording and you have speakers on, or you're doing a lot of talking, if you're doing, let's say, webinars or WebEx or Connect or any of those, GoToMeeting, this mic, this is about $299. You can get another one, the OSP mic, another brand, again for about $199. But these mics are really clean. They give you a really good solid sound, and they weigh nothing. You can keep it on your ears for hours because it just hooks over the ear.
Oh, I love that.
And it goes right up to about your voice. You can move it forward or backward a little bit, but right up to right about where the mouth is, and they have a really good sound. But
I think today's show is about LinkedIn and mics.
Mics, yes.
I like the part on mics.
So
I'm learning.
So anyway, well, that's where we are on this show. And Donna, really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot today, which is good. I like learning.
And Donna only scratched the surface here.
That's true.
There's just so much more she could tell us. I wish we had more time to learn from you, Donna.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
How about webinars? Have you done any? Are you doing any webinars coming up, or do you do those?
I do. I do webinars on LinkedIn. A lot of times, sometimes we'll devote an hour webinar to just helping people learn how to make that profile robust. And I will be putting some on the schedule starting in January, among other social media platform training as well. So yes, I do.
Great, because I know our viewers will definitely want to. Many of our viewers will definitely want to tap into that resource.
Good, so, it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Donna, we can get you at MOSTRAINING, so MOSTraining.
Right.
And also on Facebook at facebook.com/MOSTraining. And we can connect with you on LinkedIn with your name, Donna Gilliland.
And you're going to get LinkedIn requests from all of us after this show.
I want you to link in with me. I want you to connect with me. So everybody send me a connection. I mean, an invitation.
I will send you one later.
Donna, I met the CEO of a company called Mingle, and at some point, hopefully, I can get him on the show too. But they're a new startup, and they're kind of taking the networking thing to adding a little geolocation to that professional networking. So that's a site or an app. Actually, it's not. I don't think he has a website yet, but I believe they're out of beta at this point. If not, they're probably at the tail end of their beta. But that might be one to look at. I was really impressed when I saw the demo of it, and I downloaded on my. It's only available for the Apple market, so it's only on the iPhone or iPad. But I think it's got some really good potential. So check that out. MINGLE, just like it sounds, Mingle.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely will. I like new things.
Okay, great. And for all of you guys watching right now in the chat room, thanks for being here. And for all you guys watching the recording, please subscribe and keep watching them. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Next month we have, if you're in training and development, you'll know this name. We have Tiagi coming on to talk about just all kinds of things. If you know Tiagi, he's definitely a game expert, and he's been doing games for so long. He's also a happiness consultant. I don't know if that's his brand necessarily, but I know he does a lot of discussions on happiness. And if you ever meet him, you'll just know why. So that it'll be great to have him on the show next week.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Donna, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
Terrence, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you, Rick.
eLearnChat.
Thanks so much, Donna.
Thank you. Bye,
thanks
all.
everybody for watching.
Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks.